Okay, so polyvagal theory really provides an explanation of how physiological states affect our psychological and behavioral states and activities and our health. So what we learn from polyvagal theory is that the neural regulation of our autonomic nervous system, the part of our nervous system that is basically mostly automatic, that regulates the organs within our body, that system changed with evolution of vertebrates. So I focus on vertebrates. Mammals are a vertebrate and humans are a mammal. And I focus on the transition from ancient extinct reptiles to modern type mammals. And what happens is mammals require co-regulation. They need to be nurtured at birth. They need to be protected. They need safety to function. Their nervous system is tuned to detect risk and vulnerability, and that turns off the physiology that enables us to grow, health, growth, and restoration. So polyvagal theory identified 3 different evolutionary stages of autonomic evolution, or how the neural regulation of the autonomic nervous system changed. And it started with a very ancient autonomic nervous system that really basically had one defensive mode. It shut us down. It reduced metabolic activity. But when it wasn't shutting down, it supported the homeostatic function of our body. And in polyvagal theory, this is identified and called the dorsal vagal pathways, because we still have it as mammals. So we basically inherited from our extinct relatives this circuit, and when we inherit things, we use them in slightly different ways. So it's not like everything's exact. But you'll recognize this in people who have survived trauma. Yeah. That is, this system shuts us down. This system can create defecation, and we have to understand, where did it come from? If we can look at reptiles under great fear will defecate because it reduces metabolic demand, and they will immobilize or go underwater and be there for a couple hours because their brains are small. They don't need the oxygen. Now, this already translates to many human experiences, that the reaction to trauma can often result in people fainting, losing muscle tone, and later on, if they have multiple incidents of trauma, they may functionally adapt to that by merely dissociating, not being in their body, so that the body doesn't go into the same risk of totally shutting down. Right. So these have very powerful adaptive functions. The next evolutionary stage is a spinal sympathetic nervous system. And this enables, in our world, what we have used that for. That gives us energy, exuberance, mobilization, and it gives us the capacity on the defense mode to fight or to flee. But in a safety mode, it gives us the capacity to use those same systems to play. And now, how do we get into safe modes for both that old vagus, that's subdiaphragmatic, primarily going to organs below the diaphragm, and the sympathetic nervous system? How do we use them in both playful and healthful benefits? It's when the newest part of the autonomic nervous system, this social engagement system that I call, or an integrated social engagement system, which links the control of the striated muscles, the muscles of the face and head, including muscles of vocalizations, muscles of ingestion, muscles for listening, and facial muscles for cueing our emotions, especially the orbital muscle around the eye, that we can tell when people are engaged with us and feeling good with us. This system is how we bring others into our world, but this system evolved with a connection to a newer vagal circuit to the heart, a more rapid one, a myelinated one, a stronger one, that basically downregulates our defenses on the sympathetic nervous system and downregulates the dorsal, that old subdiaphragmatic vagus, from defense. And now all our components of our autonomic nervous system function synergistically to maintain health and optimize our behavior. And we have words that we kind of use. When we utilize our sympathetics with the social engagement system, we call that play. And interestingly, when we utilize the social engagement system with the subdiaphragmatic one. We call it foreplay. So it becomes this capacity for bodies to be immobilized without fear. And so whether it's moments of intimacy, which are not necessarily always sexual, but moments in which we feel safe enough to allow our bodies to conform with another. And a projective test of that is how well do people give hugs? How well does a baby conform to your body when holding it? When the baby is safe, the body conforms. When a friend is safe with you, the bodies conform. Often people have histories, and even though they want to give a hug, their bodies pull back. So we start seeing this hierarchy of systems. Now, in the world of coaching, it's in a sense trying to deal with issues of how do we deal with the day-to-day stressful environment. But what do we mean by that? We mean that our sympathetic nervous system is now being recruited in defense, not in play. And what's the other thing that will be symptoms? We'll have what the medical community loves to call a term comorbid. We'll have comorbidities. One will be, we'll have gut problems, extremely prevalent in people who experience stress. And we have terms for some of those gut problems, irritable bowel syndrome. These become natural products of an autonomic nervous system that is not in a state of social engagement and safety to promote normal homeostatic function. It's an autonomic nervous system that's being recruited to keep us alive in a defensive mode. So coaching is really to give people cues or learn that their bodies need to turn off the defenses. The problem with that notion of that we can teach people to turn off defenses is that it's outside the realm of cognitive awareness.
Right.
And this is where I came up with I invented a word. I called it neuroception, because I wanted to remove this issue of responsibility and intentionality of people who were anxious, people who were defensive. We don't want people to say that to others, don't be anxious, don't be depressed, you have everything to live for. Listen, if that worked, the world would be just functioning great. It doesn't work. And if we go back to like your history in contemplative work, we realize that if what we're doing by telling people that they should be something, we're evaluating them, and we're not appropriately witnessing them. They're in the interaction to be witnessed, which really means, in a very simple level, they want the other person to be present with them and to respect their feelings, not for their feelings to be evaluated.
Excellent.